that's why we need to learn to be able to interpret things that don't necessarily or can't necessarily be contained by words alone. They have to come in symbolic form, which tarot beautifully exemplifies. So it's this idea of this unconscious that's speaking to us in our readings, and that we're attempting really to accurately hear what that unconscious within you has to say. Another Etim Online uh, meaning of reading is to counsel or advise. We spoke at length about this in the first part of the series, which was the part on intuitive. Um, Somebody's joining. Let me just check. So, yes, we spoke at length in that first session about the inner oracle and how the intuitive part of the medicine reading is getting in touch with that intuitive part of ourselves that can counsel and that can advise. It's been called many things. Socrates called it his genius. Joan of Arc called it her counsel. And it's that part of us that can give us direction in times of need, if we're able to connect with it. So, as you can see by that counsel and advise definition of reading, this is what we're doing in our sessions. Hi, Janice. Thank you for joining me today. I'm just partway through the presentation, so if you're happy to stay to the end, there will be a chance to say hello, ask some questions if you have any. But yeah, thank you for joining us, and hopefully talk to you in a little bit. Okay, so we then look at I just need to go back here. So the next part of Etim Online's overview of reading is, sorry, bear with me. That's where I am. There we go. So it defines it as reading as that which is read, a passage or lesson. So to me, I first read that and thought, okay, what? Yeah, lesson, I get that. That which is read, that makes sense. But this word passage to me, I think, is really important, because what the hero's journey is a series of rites of passages through difficult and varied stages. And when we use tools such as tarot, astrology, readings with people, that music is still playing. um, those people that we trust to act as a guide, um, we receive quote unquote lessons on how to navigate archetypal phases, or as we said before, rites of passage, because these phases and stages are universal to all. They're built in, so to speak. But paradoxically, they're still completely uniquely experienced through something called a you. And this is what the tarot and what I help with in intuitive medicine readings is understanding on a deeper level these phases and how to move through them and how to transform them and how to sort of gain the most wisdom from them, because that's what the tarot really is a distilled book of wisdom that's been passed down to us from, some say, 15th, 16th century France. I say further, but that's me. So another thing, this being completely experienced through a you, even though I said this is universal to all and the hero's journey is universal to all, I just want to point out at this point that it is really important to avoid the danger of dissociation when we discover this information. Quote unquote, oh, it's only happening to a character called me, or it's universal. that doesn't mean that Source doesn't want your completely new, fresh take on it, and that only a you could gain insight to, and then bring that to the collective unconscious. So always value the uniqueness and individuality of this hero's journey, that yes, it's universal and eternal, but it's you, it's your consciousness that's doing it. So shine, because that's what you are. You're a sun, you're a hero. So another definition on Etim Online is to make out the character of quote unquote a person. You came here to Middle Earth to play out your son's heroic journey. Our readings together give us a snapshot of what's happening for the growth, for the story arc of that character, you. Just on that note, by the way, I will be expanding my offering in the future to a more astrologically based one, and it'll be based on your son's hero's journey. But that's a bit of a secret. Keeping that one on the back burner. So keep it secret. Keep it secret. Keep it secret. Keep it safe. I use all astrology in all my readings, but this should be a particularly powerful experience and help reveal the purpose of your coming here, if you don't already know. So back to Etim Online. To learn through reading, to put in order. So I've often said, and truthfully, that I learn as much from the readings I do with you guys as much as you get from me. And this is because together we are, quote unquote, putting in order that which was previously jumbled and confused. There's that old sort of conspiracy trope of the Latin order ab chaos, order out of chaos, and how it's all used against us. But actually, that's the way the universe evolves, is order comes from chaos, from the depth, the darkness, the chaos, the unconscious. Order arises. So this is what we're trying to really do in our sessions together, is to bring what's unconscious to the surface to make sense of that. And what I find is that most people that come to me are aware of the issues that are coming up along their hero's journey, but it's not always easy to see the why of it all and why this is happening. And that to me is what makes all the difference. Why is this happening to me? So the reading it's aiming to bring back a kind of internal order. It says that in Etim Online, order. And another word for order is cosmos. And this internal order that we're looking for is your psyche, your inner world. And its cast of characters. A little bit more on this later, I think. But for now, it's your other characters in your psyche that need to begin, or perhaps already are, but maybe not as effectively as they could, begin to communicate with your ego, with your conscious self, with your son, your inner hero. And again, let me reiterate, the ego is not something to be destroyed or got rid of, or to only see as a bad thing. Yes, there are limits to it. It can lead us astray, but it's actually what's here for us to mature and to experience a sense of self. So back to these other characters within your inner psyche. These parts of ourselves want to communicate with your son, with your conscious self, your solar wisdom. And they have a bounty of other kind of archetypal wisdom to pass on and to pass through you. But we need to bring them back to our round table, our whole self, and not just focus on our ego's awareness, which is what we tend to do. So part of this experience, I think, is helping us to learn effective and compassionate communication and empathy. so many wonderful things, and we can do that, quote unquote, out there through our experience in the world. But are we able to apply the same knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to our inner life and to ourselves? For example, how easy is it for you to find compassion for another if they make a mistake? But are you able to find the same compassion for yourself when you stumble? You know, one of my favorite teachers, Adyashanti, uses the allegory of a toddler learning to walk, and that when we start to remember who and what we really are, and we start to peel back the layers of the onion, he reckons it to like a toddler learning to walk, and asks if a 2-year-old falls over, does it then say to itself, I'm never going to learn to walk, I'm never going to bother doing this again, what's the point, people will laugh, you know, I'll give up, I'll just crawl forever? No, it just gets up and walks and keeps doing it. It keeps falling until it learns to do it in a mature way. And he's saying that to say that that's us on our journey towards avatarism, if you want to call it that, Christ consciousness, Buddha consciousness, whatever. Be easier on yourself is what I'm trying to say. So we can focus outwardly, and obsessively so, on the body and its healing. And I just wanted to bring that in as well. But it's not just the obvious steps we can take physically that can return order within, you know, the acid alkaline, bring homeostasis, that kind of healing. We can overly focus on the physical healing, but you'd be surprised how the body and its health also comes into a new kind of alignment when we remember forgotten aspects of our being that were unconscious, and we can release the toxins, the trauma, the parasites that no longer serve us. Because living a holistic, balanced lifestyle isn't just mechanical. It's not just about good food or good health kind of thing. It's what are you consuming or creating mentally and emotionally. It's are you persecuting yourself with judgment, you know, around maybe what you eat? Are you holding on to shame about something in the past? You know, well, maybe it's time to bring back some more objectivity, which really means balance, to these challenging experiences and states of consciousness that we go through, and then try to find compassion for our own struggle through Middle Earth and the quest. And that's what Adyashanti is trying to say when he's talking about learning to walk. And that's really what our readings are doing, is just looking with open hearts, and hopefully care that comes through, for wanting to help you understand your journey, perhaps from a different, fresher perspective. Okay, so you know, this is what the series has been all about. We've been looking at these 3 magical words. So intuitive, we discovered in part 1 of the series that we have an inner oracle, counsel, or a genius, an inner prophet that's always aware and knows what is in alignment for us in terms of our way forward on our hero's journey. It knows what is the right action that this moment asks for. And think about it, that's actually a pretty good esoterically aligned question. That's actually going to be one new video I'll be releasing as an introduction to the way I read tarot, and a major part of that will be helping you to find the questions that are going to give you the answers or the contemplations that you need, not what you want to hear. So sometimes, usually the medicine is bitter. The tarot doesn't pull its punches, but it's not a reason to be afraid of it. It's just, it's a way of self-reflecting. And in fact, now's a good time to bring it up. Actually, when I drew a tarot card for this reading, let me just stop sharing the screen for a second. Bring this back up. figure out how to do that. But the card that came up is the Princess of Cups, which is about self-reflection. You know, the cards that come up for us in our reading sometimes are difficult, sometimes they're not. But what they are really doing is helping us reflect on ourselves and what we need to hear. So again, there's no judgment in there. There's just honesty with ourselves, and really honoring and taking the time to actually look within and see what's there and see our own reflection. I think is courageous, and it's also part of how we go through our hero's journey underworld cycle, because we're able to look at ourselves honestly. So when we got to the word medicine, we saw that the power of dancing our way through the play of the opposites, the light and dark sides, the conscious and unconscious work, and how that actually brings growth. That sometimes we've got to take a dose of one's own medicine, which is not exactly agreeable, as we've just talked about. So sometimes we do have to come out of balance, because through this, you know, we can feel our way back to center. So again, trying to release some of that judgment around where we're not doing our best or not achieving what our ego would like, because part of that is helping to move us in a hopefully more aligned, natural flow with the universe and creator. In that medicine one, we also showed that the key to health is really through cultivating a non-resistant kind of approach, you know, acting when necessary through right action, and you could call that masculine energy, and also receiving when appropriate, and you could call that feminine energy. So bringing balance to our yin and yang. And this is that dance of the opposites. You know, you can see it as the Kundalini rising, as we climb Asclepius's rod or Jacob's ladder, which symbolizes your spine. We're raising the chrism oil. We're raising that oil within that's going to light our third eye, our lamp. And it's using that intertwining of those opposites and the interplay of the light and dark in our life, so that the child within us, the Christ within us, the chrism oil can be born and can actually survive, because we are walking the middle way. We have balanced black and white. We're not caught in either extreme. So now, with the final word, we've come to reading, and we've come to discover that not only does its true meaning correspond with what we've covered in previous parts, but also that it shows us a way of putting in order the counsel, the genius, the inner oracle that comes through for us. You know, we establish some kind of cosmos or order, or hopefully more so than when you come to me. Because often a client seeks help when the chaotic aspects of life have come to the fore, and they may be in some kind of bind, challenge, crossroad, maybe just wanting to understand themselves on a deeper level. You know, this hero's journey, this quest is not an easy one, so it can help to talk. Okay, coming to the end now. So, oops. Okay, so one last thing that came to me when thinking about the word reading was that when you break it down, it's really re-adding. So what's happening is your son, your ego, is realizing that it's not the only aspect of this whole psyche, and it's going through a process of re-adding reading itself back to the whole, which it does by completing its great round, its great yearly trip or lifetime trip or the great age trip around the zodiac or the 12 archetypes. As we grow past the womb-like and magical and often Edenic world of childhood, our self-consciousness, our ego, our sun, usually begins to identify only as this point of consciousness called a me. Like a flashlight or torch, if you're from England, only identifying with its light rather than with the casing, the batteries, the wiring, all the other parts of that torch. But what happens is this ego or this ego, an egg that is coming to maturity, continues to grow, and the soul within us that we identify with tends to put on all kinds of masks and defense mechanisms and can build up shining armor of hubris. But as God, as nature, and as consciousness intended, the soul, the sun, your ego, is always going to go through places that we consciously wouldn't choose to go, because those places are places of suffering. They're the depressions in life, the losses of loved ones, the breakups, all of those things. But all of these underworld journeys serve us in breaking down that hubris, that arrogance, and also to help us remove total identification with ego only. But as we spoke about in our last couple of videos, if it's happening out there, then it's surely mirrored within you. The old adage, as above, so below. So if our sun disappears, from our perspective at least, then so too must we go through dark and difficult times, as above, so below. And we do that in order to rise out of them, knowing ourselves in a way that we wouldn't without that negative experience. But through the teachings of the Bible and the other holy books that discuss the movement of the sun specifically, I would look to the Breakdown 1718's Telegram channel. You'll find plenty of her posts in my thing. I'll put her link below. For great lessons on the movement of the sun, what we discover is that even though it appears that our sun, our soul, disappears, which includes joy, light, all those things, even though it appears that it vanishes during our nighttime journeys, our underworld journeys, if we have the gnosis, we know that the sun is actually still there. It hasn't fallen. It's just not visible to our eye at the moment. And it's in these underworld journeys that we rediscover the lost and the forgotten aspects of ourselves that are entirely necessary to remember, to bring back together our whole being. This court, like Arthur's Camelot, would not have survived if it weren't for the knights at his round table. And there were 12 knights, 12 zodiac signs. So if we can see the why for these underworld experiences, if we can see them as ways of meeting our whole self, all 12 nights, in ways we couldn't without journeys through the wastelands and the Mirkwoods, we may never find meaning if we didn't actually take those difficult adventures. Knights are knights because they've earned the honor and the right, because they are courageous. Okay, so I just quickly wanted to go through a word that came to me the other day that I thought was quite important. I thought I'd just throw this into the presentation. If you've seen the post already, apologies for repeating it, but worth, I think, going over again. So we Parsifals, which is one of the Knights of the Round Table, Parsifal means innocent fool. In tarot, you begin the journey as the fool. But and you remain the full eternally, really. We Parsifals quest courageously through the great round, through the 12 archetypes, as we mature our disc, our sun, our conscious knowledge of self. And this self is the great round, it's the zodiac, which transcends, which means it's more than, but it does include the ego. And again, a lot of spiritual teachings tell you that ego death is necessary, and I say, I'm not going to say what I want to say. We spoke at length before about having other characters at play within our psyche's drama. So the journey of the sky disc also teaches us temperance, which you can look at as the strengthening of something or someone through heat and friction. You know, it's how you make a sword, is through tempering the steel. And it's this temperance that we go through in our underworld journeys, in the tension, the pain, the suffering aspects of experience, that we learn balance, and we become more resilient. And funnily enough, balance is another meaning of the word temperance. It's in tarot, it's the mixing of the opposite forces within, and it's also gifting ourselves patience, especially when our hero's journey gets a little bit bumpy. So then the second part of the word of discernment, first being disc, which we just talked about. Second part is earn. We earn the right to the mente, the mind. And when you understand this and understand this hermetically, this translates as realizing that you are source itself, because all is mind. It's the hermetic law of mentalism. Rule number one, principle number one. All is Brahman. But more than just the knowledge of this, through discernment, you understand through wisdom that so much so that you can actually embody it. You can become the walking realization of this. Again, not all the time, perhaps. We're human. We're constantly learning, but perhaps some of the time. Or as much as the time as possible, let's say. Okay, so I've been on a bit of a Wu-Tang tip recently, who might actually surprise you with some of the esoteric bombs that they drop in their songs, because those guys know. You know, the RZA studied some real spiritual teachings. I don't agree with everything the 5% stand for, but there's a lot of truth in what they're saying. Anyway, so one of the RZA's lyrics is caught up in the mist of six. And then it says, you better grab a hold of your crucifix, and this is it, the black god exists. Now, for a long time, I thought that this might just be a part of some of where I perhaps diverge from the 5% teachings, because I may be, and if I'm mistaken, I apologize. But what I got from some of the 5% teachings I've heard is that they see black man as the chosen ones, which I disagree with. I think the chosen ones are the Arya, which doesn't mean the white race. It means anyone who has realized who and what they are. It's spiritual nobility. So any race can be Arya, any race can be any sex, any culture, any whatever can be Aryan, because it's a spiritual nobility. It's having this open and aware. So I thought that maybe, he's saying, when he says that the black god exists, that he's saying that, the black people are the chosen ones. But now I think that it's not that, after looking a bit deeper into it. And I wonder if RZA is actually speaking more to Taoism, which I know is very much into. As in, don't forget that the black, the yin, the feminine half of God exists. Because if you focus only on the white, you're going to remain ignorant to the treasures that are held in the dark, especially in your own unconscious. Another way of looking at this one lyric is to understand what it might mean to be caught up in the midst of six. The six is the black god. It's the black cube of Mecca. It's Saturn. So it's dense, it's heavy, it's complete identification with matter. You could call it Satanism. It's one way of putting it. I think that oversimplifies things, but when you unfold a cube into its equal-sided squares, you get six. You get the cross. So when you're caught up in that, you think that you are only matter. You are only this body. Once you're dead, you're gone. That's it. But so long as you realize that there are other aspects to your being which make up the whole, that I am, the awareness, you're not caught up in what many New Age and Old Age teachers will tell you is a prison, matter. There's nothing wrong with Saturn. There's nothing wrong with matter. It's just the realm we inhabit, of which Saturn is a vital part, and in a way is Lord, because he puts limits on this world. But when you've completed the great round and you've integrated Capricorn and Saturn, you're no longer caught in the midst of six. You don't fear the Reaper, because you've seen the whole, and you've experienced the whole, and realized that you are the whole. So why would you fear one part of yourself, Saturn? And when we look at the cube unfolded, it's also the cross, on which we are crucified, until we learn to balance the vertical and the horizontal axes, the so-called spiritual vertical and the alleged material, the horizontal. We learn through this crucifixion that we go through life to become in the world but not of it. Continuing with the cube breakdown, it's made from the joining of six squares, as we said. This symbolizes conformity, rigidity, and again, identification with matter. So yeah, again, the cube is Saturn. And this, just to get a Trekkie comment in here, is why the Borg use cubes as their vessels. And one last interesting thing about six is that it actually signifies, amongst those other things that we spoke about and others, that there is still work to be finished. You're almost there, but there's still a trial ahead. And that's what Saturn asks of us. He is the great taskmaster, and he demands more of you. But once you've done the 6 days, once you've reached that sixth chakra, the third eye, you can rest. Remember, it took God, quote unquote, 6 days to create the earth, and then you can rest, find liberation on the 7th day when your crown chakra opens. So again, it's another reference to achieving or raising our chrism oil to our genius's lamp. We heal our sixth chakra, our third eye. We gain holistic and mythological vision. And I think that when we achieve this, the 6 becomes the 9, as Jimmy sang. 9 being divine consciousness, the whole, the circle that has become self-aware. Okay, nearly there. So somewhat of a trope that you can use a reed to help you breathe when you're underwater. You can't, I've realized after some research, but it's still there in a collective unconsciousness, so I'm using the metaphor because it makes sense. when we're underwater, when we're feeling smothered by confusion or circumstances that seem inescapable. A pretty common feeling at the moment. I'm seeing, hearing, sometimes feeling. Maybe a handy read, that was a poon, by the way, might just give you the oxygen, the prana, the chi, the life force you need to keep going through these denser and more difficult times. Because, as I said, when we understand the why, perhaps some of the deeper meanings of why we go through what we go through, we find that we know on a clearer, through clearer lenses, where we need to go, what we need to do. But in the meantime, here's a small resource list I've put together that have been great teachers for me along my journey. Hopefully they will be to you too. If you head to my website, again, I'll put the link below. There's quite a lot of resources for you to delve into there. And finally, if you're just happy to bear with me a moment while we just do a quick testimonial. Laura was nice enough to say that she just finished telling her husband this evening how moved she was by her session with me yesterday. She was astounded by the accuracy of the reading as to my strengths and certain personality traits, and also areas where there are some blocks or obstacles to move through. It will be of great benefit to me moving forward. I definitely feel something bubbling up inside me that wants to be expressed and shared with the world. I'm excited. I love that ending. I'm excited. So yes, you can contact me on my website, heroesjourneyreturn.com, where you'll find other videos, other interviews, and you can have a little bit more read about my intuitive medicine readings as well. Okay, so let me stop this share and stop the recording. Okay, that's all. Thank you everybody for joining me and listening. Go to heroesjourneyreturn.com